Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Playeasy Warm-Up. I'm your host, Kerri Shields, co-founder and president of Playeasy, and today I'm super excited to have a little bit of a switch-up of a podcast episode. It's going to be a little bit more focused on Playeasy as a platform, and I have two special guests, two of the members of our founding team. First, to intro us is Sean Flaherty, our CEO. Sean, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's pretty funny, huh?
Yeah, this should be a good time. You will not be the highlight of this episode, but I'm happy to hear that you will be a big part of introing the highlight, our CTO, Jon Gorin. But I thought it'd be good to start this episode with giving a little bit of context, a bit of an overview of how Playeasy has evolved to the point that where we are today.
Yeah, for sure. And really excited to dive into it here. So, I guess, going into Playeasy and where we are now and where we started and kind of where we're going, it's kind of a crazy journey that we probably couldn't have guessed in a million years how it was all going to unfold back in 2018 when we started. But I think to not make this podcast an hour and a half long, I'll try to just go through the highlights. But where we started, really, we talked about this on our roof deck in Southie in 2018, was really trying to help connect event organizers with places to play. Like, that's where the whole thing started, and what the initial concept was, like Airbnb for sports facilities. And we always had the plan of we're going to do more than just that. That's just one step of an event journey. But that really took kind of like a whole mind of its own and evolved into something within the sports tourism industry that I think is really cool, and where we started, and probably how most people know of us, which is helping event organizers connect with destinations and facilities to find their venue or their place to host their event. And so as that started, and we started working with destinations and different facilities across the country, helping provide them leads with different events that they could host within their city, what we really started to think about was how can we now continue to evolve this platform to help service the entire event life cycle and the entire event journey, not just that first step of finding your place to play. And so once we kind of got the lead generation, the event site selection aspect of our platform down, we started to move towards now helping you service the event, right? And I think at this moment of our company, we started to really identify that the destination or the DMO is our core customer. And the event organizer is a user of our system that's very valuable that we want to work with and partner with. But the group that we were really building technology for to really help power their operations was the destination. And so as we got into thinking about, okay, we help a destination bring a new event to their location. Now what? Right? Well, that new thing is now helping them create and market the actual events that are happening. And as we looked at what they care about from the tourism angle, is really helping them connect, hotels, things to do, local discounts and deals that could be provided on one easy to use event page that can be shared and accessed to the visitor themselves, right? And I know that that's really kind of like where you and I came from. When our journeys within sports tourism is being the participant, is being the visitor that's actually attending the event, right? And thinking about, man, how awesome would it be to have one event page or one stop shop to see everything to do around the area, right? The event ends, where's a good place for our team to go out to dinner? What's a deal or a discount on an attraction nearby that we could all go enjoy together after the game ends, instead of just kind of hanging out in the hotel room and or going down to the lobby and getting in trouble or something like that. So how can we really experience the destination? And as we learn more from destinations, what they really care about is understanding, A, is trying to help get people to visit and experience their destination, but then B, is really understanding what the economic impact or what the impact is of those visitors on their community. And so we saw an opportunity to be able to really provide a new way for destinations to create what we call event microsites that can showcase all there is to do, all the places that they can stay at, different local deals and discounts, so the visitors can really interact and have a good time at the destination, while also providing the DMO all the data of who went where, which restaurants got the business, which attractions got the business, who's clicking on which hotels, who's booking which hotels, etc., which really allows them to be able to have more information on what the actual economic impact was above and beyond just like what a economic impact number is. And so that's where we kind of really have shifted to. And then as we continue to evolve, and what we've announced like this summer, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit more, as well as Jon kind of goes into this, is not just having all of this be on the Playeasy platform, but now helping actually integrate, empower the destination sports websites or the destination's websites as a whole, right? Helping this content actually be showcased and featured and integrated directly into a DMO's website for events, for facilities, for things to do, for hotels, for businesses and attractions, etc., and deals and discounts. So allowing us to not just be on one Playeasy platform, but allowing the DMO to really make this their own, and we can help power their platform is kind of how we've evolved.
Love it. That's awesome. And I think I'm really excited for today's conversation, because sometimes when people ask, how do you guys make the decision for next steps of where your product is going? And I think, we are known kind of now within this industry of people who are constantly looking to evolve into the forefront of technology. And so we'll have Jon Gorin on as the main part of this conversation. But today we are here to talk about our latest feature functionality that will be coming out in the new year. It's Playeasy Intelligence. Can you give us a breakdown of where the world is going in this new age of technology and AI, and why this was Playeasy's next step?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty crazy where the world is going, and really quickly too. When you think about it, it's nuts. And so, so that whole kind of diatribe I just gave of everything that we're doing at Playeasy, I think for the most part, now the details weren't really figured out, but for the most part, this was all kind of part of the plan, right? Like we at least had an idea that, okay, we're going to start with helping people find their place to play, and then that's the first step in an event journey, and then we can help on all these other steps along the way. That was something that we all kind of thought and knew could happen, and hopefully would happen eventually, and happy that we were able to get there. Now with AI and Playeasy Intelligence, we had no idea that this was a thing that was going to happen back in 2018. And then we, just like everybody else, saw this ChatGPT hit the market, a couple years ago, and it really blew everybody's mind of what artificial intelligence can do. And so as ChatGPT launched, and as people started playing around with it and getting to know it, I know Jon was in there fascinated by all that's happening, and we were too, but he was looking at it from a different angle, and what were the opportunities that we could have within AI. And I think what was interesting when ChatGPT first launched was one of the first use cases, one of the first examples of it were people talking about. I remember I was on Twitter, I think, and somebody was talking about, oh my gosh, look, ChatGPT helped me make my itinerary when I was visiting Paris. And so the travel use case, the tourism use case for somebody figuring out where to go and what to do is one of the most obvious use cases for AI. And with how much investment is going into AI right now, and how much work and how the progress of AI in the world at this moment is incredible. And one of the things that you think about is one of its best use cases is tourism, right? And so we were kind of in this world of wow, this is incredible. And as a visitor, how useful that would be to be able to use ChatGPT to tell us where to go. But as you started to think about what that would mean, is that was a little bit scary to think, what is this going to do to destination marketing organizations in our industry alone, right? But B, does it really work? And I think the thing is, with AI in general, what you can really think of it as is like a new user interface, right? Instead of using a mouse and a screen or a cell phone and a touch screen, you can now just talk to something. It's like a conversational interface. And how nice that is to be able to ask it a question about where to go, and then it can give you back the answer. The problem with it is A, it's not updated to real-time information, but B, God only knows what the data is that it's using to send you somewhere, right? So you have no idea if this is actually, should I really go here? I don't know. This might be a made-up place, right? And so after we launched the Playeasy website elements, we had a webinar, and that's our ability to integrate into a website. Jon called me right after that webinar, and he's like, hey, I think I'm on to the next thing, and I want to get into AI. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Well, let's think about what that is. What could AI be used for within, what we're doing in our platform and how it can be leveraged. And he had this concept of this AI tour guide where you could take ChatGPT in that conversational interface, but have it powered by the destination's content, right? And I think that's something that as we started to really play around with this, we're like, wow, this could be really powerful. And this could be a product that I personally cannot wait to use. I could use ChatGPT, but all of the recommendations and all of the content that it's giving me is powered by the DMO. And what's really cool about that is if you think about the DMO, what their superpower is their local knowledge of the authentic experiences within their city. And if we could figure out a way to help them control the answers, but have that amazing user experience and then give them all the data back, this could be something that could really change the world of tourism. And I think, as you think about it and you bring up AI, I know it's in all the workshops and it's in all the conferences as kind of the educational content. And I think a lot of people are scared and excited. It's kind of a mixture of the two of them. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of the same. But I think when you think about a DMO and what this could do for the visitor, there's a window of opportunity here. I think that if we can capture this could become the golden era for destination marketing. This could allow destinations to really harness the power of AI and create a visitor product that's so powerful, that's so great for the visitor, that the destination becomes the true authority for the visitor experience, influencing where the visitor goes, and becoming that center of the ecosystem where their stakeholders work through the DMO to reach these visitors in this conversational way that's built on trust, but this amazing visitor experience. So that's kind of an all over the place way of kind of explaining where I think the world is kind of going with AI, but also the power that I think Playeasy Intelligence can have as it comes to AI. So and I guess to just kind of go on top of that, just for some clarification of kind of Playeasy Intelligence and what this is Playeasy Intelligence is kind of like the high level, like Playeasy's way of interacting with artificial intelligence. Underneath Playeasy AI, there's a few different use cases that we think will work for the destination or sports tourism or tourism in general. One of the first ones is the ability for event organizers to be able to more easily create an RFP that can get sent out to destinations as a lead. That's something that we're working on. Another aspect is like destination, like employee productivity, right? Helping them create content, helping them make a post, answer questions, all with real-time data of their destination to make them more productive. That's the second one. This third one, which is the one that we're really spending the most of our time on because we think this is the most transformational, is this AI tour guide and actually using AI at the destination level for the visitor experience and not just for being more productive and creating content. Like we think obviously that's a very good use of AI, but what we're really kind of going towards is this visitor experience angle.
Awesome. That was great. And I think a perfect way to intro before we get into more of a technical conversation with Jon Gorin. But would you help me give an introduction to who Jon is and just a little bit more of his background before we get into that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jon and I worked together in my previous life, and he's probably the best innovator and the best technologist in not just the sports tourism industry, but the tourism industry as a whole. When you use Playeasy or you see the platform, that practically the entire thing was built by Jon. And his ability to not only be able to make incredible products, both from how they look and feel, but also the power behind them, his ability to innovate and think forward. And really, this is, this AI tour guide was his initial idea, his initial thought of how we can then take what we have and then create something that's really, an order of magnitude ahead of where other things are. And then not only just come up with that idea, but then deliver something within 3 to 4 months. It's absolutely incredible. And so I know that at Playeasy, we're really, really lucky to have Jon. But also, I think just for the entire tourism industry, should feel really lucky to have a guy like Jon Gorin, who's really dedicating his life's work to creating solutions that are really going to empower the DMO in ways that we never really thought possible by leveraging all this best-in-class technology into one easy-to-use system. So, I'm really excited for the podcast and listening to what Jon has to say. So, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll shut up and I'll let Jon come in.
We almost hit the time limit, but Sean, thanks so much for being here to help me intro. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Thanks. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Playeasy Warm-Up Podcast. Today, I am so excited to have a member of our founding team, our CTO, Jon Gorin. Jon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kerri, for having me.
Of course. So first off, Jon, could you give a little bit of your background and how you got to be involved with Playeasy?
Sure. I'll actually take it back a little bit further, just how I got involved with technology, because it's basically been my entire life. I started playing with computers. I must have been, 8, 9 years old. My father brought home a computer for work. He used to tell me, don't touch this thing, this cost a fortune. Back then these things took up, gigantic amounts of space. But me and my brother just sat there and started playing with it, playing DOS games on it, because, the only thing a kid cares about is playing games, right? But with that, because the computers were so unintuitive at the time, we actually had to learn how to use it and how to install it, why it was always breaking, what an error code meant, all this really ridiculous stuff, all because I wanted to play the Oregon Trail. And, we would spend day after day after day of doing that. And then over time, I get to 13, 14, I get interested in building computers myself just to play around games. It's, I just want to get into it. And that kept on leading to new opportunities. When I got around to 18 years old, I was actually interested in being an architect. So I joined up as an intern at our architect's office, but I wasn't really good at drawing. So if you want to be an architect and you can't draw, it's not going to work. So what I was good at was fixing all their problems they have with computers. So I would spend all my time just kind of fixing this, fixing that, installing a printer here, updating a system there. And then over about 6 months to a year, I just said, okay, I guess I'm going to do this for a living. And from that point on, I've been full on into computers, both from a professional and social standpoint. Really love technology in general and just what innovation does. With all that said, though, that led me into conversations with Sean at a certain point when we were at our previous company, where I was working on a bunch of really complex, really not that much fun projects when it came to integrating with bank systems and moving content securely. It was good intellectual stuff, but it wasn't the most groundbreaking things in the world I would want to do for the next 30, 40 years. So talking to Sean comes to me with this idea that I know that you and Sean had talked about in the past, which is that Airbnb for sports facilities. So with all that said, I was like, I'm a little interested. But what the kicker was he was working with my girlfriend at the time on actually doing the wireframes for that first version of the website. So at a certain point, she came over to me and started showing me these pictures of things. I'm like, I think we can do this a little bit better. But I didn't want to commit to anything because, who knows? I had a good job. Everything was going well. So eventually we got to talking. Then we actually got assigned a project together at work. And then instead of actually talking about that project, we just started talking about what Playeasy would become. And that really kicked off that whole momentum of joining the team. At that time, it was called Play On Incorporated. We were a little bit different, different logo, different branding, all that good stuff. But we really kind of thought through that, came up with Playeasy as a team together. went out to market with the facilities idea and just started kind of edging our way to what we are today. But it's been almost 7 years at this point, a heck of a journey. And I think there's a lot more to come than there was in those first 7 years. I think especially with what we're doing with AI here, this is really that next evolution of where we're going to go as a company. And it's really exciting to start that now.
It truly does feel like a lifetime ago, thinking about that time back in 2018. But it's pretty cool to see how far we've come since that time.
Definitely.
And I can say from personal experience, not only are you the best of the best when it comes to technology, but I think one of your greatest strengths is being able to communicate the technicality of everything going on our platform. I know we are a relatively small team. What started as a few of us on the founding team, we're now over 10 employees. And so all pretty new to technology. And so I think being able to have this conversation, I'm super excited about. And so I want to focus this on Playeasy Intelligence and AI. And so to start, could you explain what is Playeasy Intelligence?
Sure. So as Sean had talked about earlier, what we are really trying to do is bring the next level of how do I leverage all the goodness of what a DMO brings to the table, but then project that out so that everybody could use it. So I think one of the biggest challenges I've had just as a traveler, around the world, around the United States, I've been to, maybe half of the states in the US, been to 10 different countries. I've done a fair bit of traveling, but whenever I travel, I literally don't know what to do until I start digging into all these online blogs or start digging into, all these, paid advertisements half the time, which are never really what you want to get into, but it's what's there. You put into Google, hey, what's the best things to do in an area? It's probably a blog somewhere that somebody got paid to, promote a couple of things. And it's not typically authentic. And that's been, a challenge because you'll get into, I've used TripAdvisor in the past and it says, here's the top 10 rated guides or whatever. And they're all kind of not that great. But then that one local guide that you could have got to, if somebody correct had promoted them, you just never find them. And my best experience has been when I've actually talked to a local guide. They've taken me around the area. They show me the things that are off the beaten path, the places that you typically wouldn't eat because you'd be like, this is not a name brand. This is not McDonald's. But I'm not traveling to go to a McDonald's. I'm traveling to get a feel for the area. And this all led to the idea of, why not leverage the data that our DMOs have helped us kind of gather over the past couple of years and use that and reverse it back to the actual audiences that are coming to those DMOs. And that's really the opportunity that I see with Playeasy Intelligence. And then, as also Sean alluded to in his intro, we have all this ability to understand what's happening in our platform, and we want to use that. And it's really hard, in my case, for example, to build a UX screen for every single scenario that somebody wants to dig into. But a conversational aspect to doing it is really, really helpful. So you could just ask a question and we could go and figure out how to grab you that information and present it in a really useful manner.
And so let's go back to the beginning, kind of get more technical. What is AI, or can you explain what it is?
Sure. So AI has been around for, I would say, about 40, 50 years in different permutations. And it's not really like, hey, it's Terminator coming out, going to take over the world. That's the AI of movies. But AI is really the idea that a computer could logically think of a next step without human interaction. So it starts basically learning upon a previous example of itself. That's the basis of machine learning. And once you start thinking about machine learning and how that's been applied, I go back and I actually had an uncle who worked at AT&T back in the 1970s and 80s, and he was involved with the process of when you call up and then a bot talks to you on the phone and helps you with a service request. But think of that in the 70s. They were working on this when it was just an idea. He was a scientist, so he wasn't a technologist in terms of like what I am, but he was literally in how does machine learning allow you to do this and have a successful conversation. And that's evolved over the past, I would say, 30 years, 40 years to things that like, hey, the first version of Siri. Siri came out, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Google Assistant, Alexa, all these things were kind of there. That's all AI. And then even things where you get recommendations on your Spotify playlist, that's all AI also. But what really was that big leap was generative AI, and that's where ChatGPT came in. And that played on the concept of, I have a conversation, or let's say a string of words that are being said. I'm typing in, it's like, hey, can you recommend me something? So back in the old days, that would be really hard to kind of go to the next level without some human interaction. But what was done was basically all the data that it could grab was kind of pulled together, and a really smart autocomplete system was created. And then what it does is not figure out the next word, but the next phrase and the next sentence. So instead of just the next word of being like, what's a good place, and then the next word would be to go, it would be, what's a good place to go? And then it goes and says, based on my knowledge, my big index of information, these are examples of what I know answers that term. And that's what it starts building up and up and up. And as we're seeing as kind of technology evolves, is the size of its knowledge to answer those questions has grown exponentially. But with that becomes a limitation, which is they become static resources in effect. So you can only gather as much information up to a certain date, then you have to cut it off, and then you have to release it to let people interact with it. But it won't ever have that knowledge of, in ChatGPT's case, 2023, or maybe early 2024. So if something is, hey, this restaurant just opened next week, and I want to get a recommendation for that next month, it's not going to know about that. And that's a big problem that is faced in the industry that, basically everybody's looking at, how do I solve that? And that's where Playeasy Intelligence comes in, is we can help solve that by actually injecting that real-time information controlled by a real human.
That's awesome. And if you're listening now, you can understand why Jon is so good at what he does in being able to communicate in that in a way that anyone can really understand. And so I know you mentioned ChatGPT. Could you give some other examples of existing AI technologies?
Yes. So ChatGPT is kind of the Ziploc bag, like the name brand that everybody thinks about. But it's a version of a generative AI, and the other ones out there are ones from guys like Google. Google has Gemini. You'll see it on your phone. Google Assistant was a precursor to Gemini, but it's a lot of branding exercises where they're trying to kind of fit into it. Then you'll see features like Microsoft Copilot, which is built upon technology like ChatGPT, but it's its own version of it, similar to like what Playeasy Intelligence is, where in Microsoft's case, they have access to all this data about your emails, about your Word documents, Excel files, and they're able to put generative AI on top of it. That's actually the main thing that makes it useful, because without that context, and I'll come back to context all the time when we talk about this, without the proper context, AI really doesn't do much because it needs a push in the right direction. You've never really see AI start a conversation, and that's on purpose, because it doesn't know what you as a human is actually thinking. You need to prompt it and get them going, and then it can start kind of doing that autocomplete workflow I talked about before.
And so you just touched on it a bit, but how does AI access and utilize Playeasy's data?
Definitely. So one of the big challenges we had when we first started looking at, what's the opportunity with AI and Playeasy? So the first thing I did before we even got into what Playeasy Intelligence is today, it was, can ChatGPT just create basic descriptions of content on Playeasy? So you saw this feature, if you've been using Playeasy for a year or so, maybe early last year. And this was, hey, I have an event, I just need a description for it, let it come up with a description. It's going to say some things that might or might not be true, but it would be a great starting point to get you kind of going with this. And once you kind of saw that opportunity, you start saying to yourself, well, actually, what about all the things that people have created? Why just focus on that part? Why not do the reverse? So in our platform, I think we have over 15,000 facilities, over 15,000 businesses, over 15,000 hotels. There's a lot of content. And that content, while it's extremely useful, people have to go search for it. And just as somebody that has to, again, build the UIs to get people to kind of go through all that content, it gets to a point of, how do you ever find a gem out of there, or the proper recommendation to a question I have, versus I click a couple of buttons and it shows me 30 results. And then I have to go through and look at those 30 results, and maybe I find the one that works. But at the same time, couldn't they have just asked a question and then it found it for me and highlight it instantaneously, or let me drill down and ask follow-up questions? Because again, with a search or a UI, follow-up questions don't exist. Even Google has this problem typically, which is why AI is so revolutionary. Because in Google, you ask a question and it gives you the surface layer examples. And here's, there are thousands of results. But if you ever have a follow-up, it's a brand new question. Versus with AI, you continue the conversation. So it understands your context from before.
And just to touch on some of the existing tools that we have within the Playeasy platform. So those event microsites that Sean talked about in our intro, we have the ability to, for when someone is creating an event page, AI can generate a summary or a description for that event, which when we came out with it a year ago was life-changing, I know, for our destination partners and event organizers and facilities, that it was so time-saving just to have that readily available for you. So, which is why I know I'm even more excited to get this in front of all of our partners. And so, could a user have the same results? Could it be achieved with existing AI tools?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And it's a question that's actually out there for everybody in the AI space right now, which is, is ChatGPT going to take over the world? The challenge again comes to its knowledge has a certain level of kind of ability to a certain point. And then because there's so much knowledge and so much nuanced knowledge out there, so not everything is the most important thing. It can't do everything. And it shouldn't do everything. And it actually has built into it the ability to talk to other tools. And this goes into, if it's looking for information about a research paper that you're writing and you ask for sources, it's not going to use itself as a source. It's actually going to do a search online. It has an algorithm that it goes out there, similar to Google, and does an actual search, brings back results, cites those pages, and says, this is where I got the results from. The challenge with that, though, is it's not curated. So it's doing that kind of on the fly, and it's ranking those results based off of its internal knowledge, but it's not really a human saying, hey, this is actually the place that you should go for pizza in the area. This is the place you should go if you want to see a movie. This is the event of the year that you have to go to if you're into bass fishing, for example. It's like it doesn't have that nuanced knowledge. It has more general knowledge. And even in the world of AI, when you deal with it, you kind of talk to it like, hey, use our specific knowledge first, but then if you have to, fall back on general knowledge. But general knowledge is not usually the best answer. It's the general knowledge, which is, can always have faults in it.
So when someone asks a question, or maybe let's take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about Playeasy Intelligence, maybe for someone who hasn't seen a destination profile ever on our platform, could you explain where Playeasy Intelligence lives on not only
Sure.
our platform, and then where it could potentially live on another destination's website?
Absolutely. So to take a huge step back, Playeasy Intelligence was the goal for Playeasy to have a way to interact with AI in general. So AI can do many, many, many different use cases, but the core problem is how do I interact with it in a way that I can control and then also provide feedback off of. So it's one thing to just say, hey, I'm having a chat with ChatGPT, and let's say you have a chat with ChatGPT, and then Sean has a chat with ChatGPT, and then we all say, what did you get? And then everybody's like, I got this, you got that, you got that. But that doesn't help as a platform to say, I understand that this is the common conversations I'm having, and then to even serve that back up to a destination marketing office to basically say, hey, these are the trends that I'm seeing because I'm monitoring all these conversations that are happening, not just one. And then I can also steer all these conversations into specific ways by adding controls around it. So when we think of Playeasy Intelligence, it's just kind of that broad stroke of how does Playeasy use AI, but then it goes into the weeds of the different use cases. You have the tour guide use case, which is our big use case that takes the destination profile, understands it not only by the text that's in there, but by the semantic relationships of the words and the phrases and the stories and the businesses, the facilities, brings that all together into this big knowledge pool that we then present to something like ChatGPT and say, hey, you have access to this, but only in real time if you talk to me first. So we're literally having a conversation every single time you ask a question into ChatGPT. In our version of it, you're actually not asking ChatGPT directly. You're asking Playeasy, then Playeasy talks to ChatGPT, and then we kind of go back and forth a couple of times, and then we say, okay, this is the answer that we want to present, and then we present that to the user. So all the controls about what's happening is actually within that conversation between Playeasy and ChatGPT.
And that is a great point. I was recently at the 4S Summit in Chattanooga recently, and there was a education session on AI where Paul from Simple View gave a seminar on, hey, here's some real life examples of how the errors of ChatGPT and what you should look out for. And some of it was, he made up a facility, or he asked questions about a facility. It was fake information and immediate questions on, okay, well, how do you control a random user in Tennessee being told that there's 8 ice hockey rinks, but it's not even an ice hockey rink? And so what you're saying is that Playeasy Intelligence allows for you to control the data that's being pushed to users that are coming to your Playeasy profile, but also your own website from that connection being pushed from Playeasy.
Correct. So I think the biggest change in concept from kind of websites to where this is going is websites are kind of text on a screen with images that support it, versus when you think of AI, it needs more than just text. It needs context and dimensionality to it. So one of the big parts of AI is the ability to represent words or even sentences or concepts as mathematical equations, and then have the AI kind of ask questions not only in text form, but when it goes and says, hey, I'm searching for good movie theaters. What does good mean? And I want good movie theaters in this area. There's multiple layers to that. And what if that question is actually, I want to learn about this area over here, but I'm actually talking to a bot that's representing a totally different area. So there has to be some level of walls that need to be built around the conversation to say, these are the rules. You can't be talking about another area. That's not your purview. You only have access to data in this area. If you answer a question related to these 30 topics, you have to use grounded information that the destination controls that would go through Playeasy. Then it's now Playeasy's responsibility to actually, when the question comes in from ChatGPT, to say, hey, can you help me find a great restaurant? Playeasy has to interpret that question and say, oh, okay, he means a great restaurant. How do I find that? I look in the destination profile, and then I search through that. But I do that in real time. So to the user, it looks like, hey, it's 1 or 2 seconds. But in reality, we're sifting through tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of records to find, here's a curated list of 20 recommendations based off of what it was in the title of that business, the description of the business, and its relationships throughout our platform.
That's awesome. And so why is our approach different from the standard website chat agent approach?
Absolutely. So this goes back to that 2D versus 3D idea. So in the website approach, you might have a curated list of 25 questions that you can answer. Back in the day, there was a product called Zendesk, and there's still this product called Zendesk, where you would set up Zendesk, you would put in all your help desk articles, and then it could answer any question related to that help desk article. But if you ever ask it a follow-up question, good luck, because it would only understand the text that was on the screen, the text that's on the website. But that's not how humans think. They ask follow-up questions. They want to dig deeper. They want nuance. They want additional help. They need conversation, because back in the day, that's who you would talk to. You go to, let's say, a destination. You go to the tourism office. You ask a person questions. You ask follow-ups. You don't just end the conversation with the first thing they say. And that's where these systems have challenges, because they don't necessarily understand the deeper meaning behind what's being said on the website. They just understand what's on the website. And they could do kind of, I'm not saying regurgitation, but they'll play around with the wording, but it's basically using that as the basis. Versus what we really want to see here is that you could have that fluid conversation back and forth, and it could follow up with you, and it could go deeper, and it could change topics and not really flinch, because it just has access to knowledge rather than a fixed set of knowledge.
It gives an even better user experience from that point, which leads to people staying on your own website longer. And so How do you see AI impacting the value of the DMO website?
Absolutely. So when I just, again, coming back from thinking as it as a visitor, my biggest challenge has been going on to these other third-party websites where, they might have recommendations, they might have things that are, propped up there. It's like, you must go see this. Then you've really got to dig into reviews and understand, like, is this really what it says it is? Is there, like, hidden cost here? Like, who actually said this is the place to go? Why is this here? Versus a DMO is incentivized by its local community to really promote what's in the local community. So some of those biases move away a bit because it's not just paid, that's the result I'm going to see. It's going to be people that actually work in the community saying, these are the places that matter to our community, you should come visit these. Not knocking going to a fast food chain if you're out in the town in a new area, but I would really like, if I'm going someplace that's famous for barbecue, getting really good barbecue. Not going to the chain restaurant because that was the one that was promoted. But me as an external visitor, I wouldn't know the difference. I would think, yeah, this is a local shop. But in reality, it was the one that just paid for the advertisement space. So that's where I see the DMO using that superpower that they have, which is curating their local community and bringing that up. And then I think going further and saying, hey, on your website, I could dig in and kind of go into all these subsections. Why can't I just ask a question and see what happens? And then it's grounded in the reality of what the DMO offers. And that's where we see this Playeasy Intelligence going with this.
I think it's interesting to start this conversation. You said that you always come from the perspective as a leisure traveler. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times you're behind the scenes and we are the ones kind of having the conversations with our destination, mm-hmm. Facility partners. And we tend to take the mindset of what would we want to see as an event organizer coming mm-hmm. into a city, hosting an event, or if I'm traveling to participate in that event, what kind of experience do I want to have in that city? And I think you touched on it, both leisure and sports participants, everyone wants to experience that community, the local shops, businesses, and having that unique experience to the city. And that's exactly what the destinations want to do, is push
Absolutely.
You to your local economy to really have that full experience while you're in that city. And so I think that's important to kind of shout out, because when we think of where our technology and our company is going, we've really taken every perspective possible when coming out with any new features, functionality. And so how will this connect to a DMO's website?
Sure. So one of the big things that I've pushed for in terms of building product has been, it can't just be useful in a small subset of use cases. It has to try and get broader. And this goes into, where are people today? In Playeasy's world, we drive, let's say hundreds of thousands of people through our site for SEO reasons. They come through, they found it on a search result. That is amazing. We love that. But the biggest thing that we also understand that DMOs invest a ton of time, effort, and really money into their digital presence. And that includes their website, if not first and foremost their website. And then the real question starts to become, what is the most relevant thing that they can measure also? So it's one thing to say, hey, they came to Playeasy, they can measure the ROI of people coming in, interacting with the content, but they also go through their website for a lot of use cases. And there's a lot of content there that might, in the case of Playeasy, might not relate to sports, but is still applicable to a lot of the use cases that we're involved in. So how do we re-leverage this information? And then also, what does a user really want to do? Do they want to spend 20 minutes kind of searching on Google and maybe finding the thing they want to find, or just naturally just ask a question and get the answer they're looking for? So as we see this evolve over time, websites are really important, but there is going to be a generation that comes that is just used to asking questions to a single point of knowledge. And they want those answers. They might be linked to a website, so that might be the second place that they find more details on, so it still has extreme value. But the starting point might not be that Google search that we've gotten used to over the past 20 years. And there is changes that are happening both legislation-wise. Google was found as a monopoly just recently, as of a month or so ago, and that's going to have wide reverberations in terms of, is Google search going to be that one-stop shop that's always been, or is this going to be a place where AI is coming as a big player in terms of, hey, I'm on my phone, I'm going to try the AI first because it's built into the phone. I'm just going to talk to my phone and it's going to tell me answers. And then the question becomes, where does its knowledge come from? And how does you get plugged in? And that's where this forefront of building AI first solutions becomes really important, because then your content still has extreme value. It's not going to be found in the traditional ways that it's been for the past 20 years.
Yeah. And that leads perfectly into this next question. Why should a DMO be excited by AI instead of scared? And what are the opportunities AI gives DMOs?
Absolutely. So this is the crux of everything that's happening in so many industries right now, which is, should I be afraid of this, or should I lean into it, or should I do something in between? I don't know. And even Playeasy, when I started talking about this earlier this year with the team, there was a worry here of like, should we lean into this? Should we not lean into this? But at the end of the day, technology does not wait. And technology will move forward and basically change things before you even realize it. And then the other big implication of technology is how it goes from kind of the youngest up. So if you start looking at how kids interact with smart devices today, it's totally different than when you were a kid and you used your smartphone where you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. It could search the internet. No, a kid's got to use the phone, instantly know how to use it, start playing YouTube videos, start finding new content, go onto Instagram, go onto social media, and just start engaging with content like it's the only thing they know. And AI's got to play a big role in that in this next generation that's coming up. And if you're not found there, if you're not found in the right contexts where people are actually looking, you're going to miss an entire audience of people. And that's going to really affect kind of that momentum of what you could bring back to your destination to say, hey, I'm highlighting you not just to the audiences that I see today, but also future-proofing you so that you don't necessarily have to worry about how you're going to be found in the future. Now, I've talked to small business owners, all over the place, just because, a lot of people I know kind of own, small internet businesses or do things on the side, and every single one of them is saying, okay, I'm worried because how am I going to get found? And this goes into technology will find a way for everything to kind of get into different places, but you can't be kind of on a legacy mindset, because then before you even know it, I was just watching a video this morning. A person's Google search result could go from, I'm driving 250,000 people a day down to I'm driving 10,000 people, just because Google said, well, actually I care more about this type of content. Or maybe Google search is not the big thing anymore, and you weren't on the big thing where it was being found. And how we see Playeasy as a kind of platform, and this is kind of maybe a little bit hard to understand, but a platform doesn't necessarily beholden to a UI. So a platform could plug into a tool that ChatGPT could use in the future. And that's got to be up to developers, and it's got to be up to product marketers, product managers, especially in the AI space, of how do the tools, all this knowledge across the world, come together into unified chats and unified conversations that people will have. And that's where we see this future going to, is like, you want to be ready for today and tomorrow, not just for, hey, it's always worked this way, so be it. I'll let it work the same way forever.
Yeah. And we've seen that just in the course of 6+ years in building Playeasy, just how much technology has evolved in all facets. And so it'll be exciting to see just over the course of the next few years. I do want to point out, we are saying DMOs, but this will, our destination partners and facility partners are CVBs, DMOs, sports commissions, sports facilities. It will be available to all of those partners. And so I just wanted to make that clear when we talk about DMOs. But so the impact of a visitor, what kind of visitor intelligence data can now be captured with Playeasy Intelligence?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, because when you think of website conversions today, somebody goes to your website, they click on a link, that link pops out to somewhere else, they maybe do a conversion where they buy something, where they reserve something along those lines. It's very impersonal. You don't actually know intention. You could infer intention, but if you're talking about 250,000 people, how much inferred intention are you going to actually get by looking at big numbers and these big flow charts that say this person clicked here, then clicked here, then clicked here? The difference with conversational AI, like what we're doing with Playeasy Intelligence, is you actually know what the person's asking for. You actually know that if, hey, you give them this answer and they drill deeper, they're actually looking for maybe something else. Or maybe they get an idea and then it changes over the course of that conversation because your content actually led them to a new path. Now you'll actually know what people's intentions are and have a much more personal relationship with that user without ever having to actually know that user. And that's also a big part of how Playeasy Intelligence is going to work, which is when they come through somebody's website, we're not going to track the person has to log in, they have to give me your first name and last name. That really doesn't matter when you scale this to what we want to go with our destination partners, which is we want to provide a great user experience for everybody that comes in, the least amount of barriers. They could just start up a conversation. And we'll work with our destinations to make sure that conversation is catering towards what they want to promote. And by doing that, you'll have kind of this flow where things are initiated by the user, so you automatically know this is their intention, and then you could guide them down a path to actually finding out, hey, we got them to do what we wanted them to do. They clicked on this link for this restaurant, or they asked for more information about this event, or they actually want to reach out to contact people at the DMOs office. Like, that will all be part of the chats, and then as we scale that up, we can start understanding those trends. And like, hey, during the springtime, it's these type of conversations, the fall time, it's this. And then we could help start advising and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. These are some of the recommendations that we can make to your profile, to the type of content, to how you're promoting it. So it kind of changes the whole way of understanding your audience, which is really critical to the future here.
And just because this is a frequently asked question, so you're saying that if any user, if my mom came on the Playeasy platform and went to Valley Forge Sports and Tourism's destination profile, she could access Playeasy Intelligence without ever having to have a login, a sign up, or anything. It's just a normal experience. And the same could be said if that chatbot is on Valley Forge's website as well.
And that's, I think, the big part. So I'll go further to say, if Valley Forge wanted to work with their partners and put this bot into their partners' websites, it's literally just 2 lines of code and it's there, and it's just a chatbot, right? And you could put that on a hotel's website, you could put that on a business's website. It's just a way to have further engagement with your community as they kind of go in there. No problem. And that's really the point. The value here is the conversation and the intelligence of what the destination wants to promote, and not really, hey, I need to capture every little bit of user information, because that's not really the intelligence. Obviously, if you wanted to say, hey, we got to go and sell ads across the world for it, that would be really important. But that's not our goal. Our goal is really to help the tourists get a better understanding of the areas they're visiting and have more engagement with that local community around it. Because really, that's what's missing in a lot of the travel stuff I've been involved in and used over the years, which is very impersonal. And it doesn't really curate anything. It's just, this is what's out there. This is the most promoted thing. So I guess those are the places that I have to go.
And so to take that a step further from a destination perspective, so you're saying that Valley Forge could update their profile, add a hotel or a local business, and cater that content as they would like to for the best experience, and then connect that to any of their partners' websites as well as their own.
Absolutely. And the biggest part there is the intelligence of the conversation is going to come back to them, because it is representing them. Think about it as putting a person at the store and say, hey, I am from XYZ destination. I can help you kind of navigate here. I'm at the store, but I represent the entire community around it. And it's kind of going back to the grassroots of what a tourism bureau, in my mind, was. When I travel to an area, I'm going to go to a place and be like, I just got here. I landed an hour ago. I have no idea what I want to do here. This place looks really cool. Can you help me? And, how does that work in the new day and age where everybody's staring at their phone screens and, just really clicking, searching, but it's not curated at all. So it's just more of whoever kind of put the most effort into getting out there in SEO versus a curated world around it.
Yeah. And I'll give a real life examples from one of our destination partners and just how they will be able to utilize Playeasy Intelligence. We recently went on a trip to visit your county. is one of our best destinations in terms of using all of our features and functionality on the Playeasy platform. They also use our website elements. So if we'll link in the bio of this podcast, but they connect all of their marketplaces. So their facility marketplaces, their local business marketplaces, local discounts and promotions that you can all access directly on their website. But when we were in York County, we were able to go to a few of these businesses and restaurants and introduce ourselves and get feedback on how they've been able to use Playeasy to market themselves as a destination, which has allowed Jordan has been the head of this from York County, but that community collaboration, making their community a team to make sure that a visitor coming into their city for a weekend for a basketball event was having the best local experience outside of just those games. And so we went into one of those stores and a woman said, "You've changed the way I've been able to see the impact of events coming in," because usually I had a notepad and had a checklist. If people had basketball shorts on, I would be able to see like, oh, okay, great. Some people were able to come. And so our technology is really empowering not only the destinations, but the local businesses within those communities to market their stores and their restaurants and push promotions and really see that impact that event has by bringing it into the city. And so this Playeasy Intelligence is going to enable you to dive even deeper into that impact and allowing for you to market yourselves and have control of the way that you are marketing. Would you agree with that, Jon?
Definitely. There's a couple of points I'll make there also, which is, we didn't want to build a solution that would take, 5 years of effort for it to be valuable. Because again, AI is coming as a freight train. If you're not using it, relatively soon, there will be all this crazy new stuff that you'll feel underwater with because, hey, this thing came out, this thing came out, this thing came out. We wanted to create a solution that was extremely easy to use. It's in our name. And also easy to set up and also easy to scale. So if I'm going to start with, let's say York County, they're relatively a small destination in the grand scheme of things. They're not in New York City, but they have an extremely vibrant community around their sporting events. And the community that supports it, the local businesses, the hoteliers, they're really keen in understanding how all this stuff works together. And this is, again, where Jordan comes in and kind of overarches, this whole idea of how to bring it together, and Playeasy is a solution to help with that. But think of it from the point of view of the person going there for the first time. They might have never heard of York County. They have no idea where to go for a beer after an adult event, or go out for pizzas after a youth event, or anything to do with shopping in the area if they want to catch a movie, anything of that sort. And again, the local businesses are literally local businesses. They don't really know that these people are coming because their focus is running on their businesses. So the idea here is, again, how do I bring this all together, but then not make it so complicated that somebody like Jordan couldn't just leverage it as is almost, and then make incremental improvements, learn how to adjust it, scale it up as new things come up and new avenues open up with opportunities. But we didn't want to just say, hey, you're going to have to sit in a 6-hour training course, and then it's going to take 2 years for you to actually put this on your website. Like that, those were the number one things that came into my head that we said, we can't do that. So when you see what we're doing with our solution, just understand that this is a journey, and it's going to start off, and it'll start off really, really well, but it is a journey. And technology will evolve, and it will continue to evolve. At the end of the day, is text and text messaging with a AI the end solution? Maybe not. Maybe it's conversation. Maybe it's even video eventually. Who knows? But the big thing here is your knowledge still needs to be combined together so an AI can use it. And then, I could foresee in the next 6 months where we go with this, where, we might have a mobile app, and that mobile app is just going to go onto people's phones and they'll automatically know where they are in any of our partner destinations. Pick up that partner profile and it'll basically say to you, hey, what can I help you with? And then from there, you might actually be able to press a button and talk to it. And not just type into it and say, hey, where can I get a good pizza around here? Where can I get a beer? Where can I see a movie? And it could just answer you, but it'll be natural. And it'll still all come from the destination's knowledge base. And then feed back into the destination. So that entire conversation is really data that those destinations can use to understand how to better serve those people.
That's great. And you touched on a little bit of this already, but what excites you personally the most about what this could do for your own travel experiences?
Absolutely. So again, I go back to my own experience have been, I really don't like just searching online and clicking on ads and basically taking into places that I kind of know this doesn't really look authentic, but it's the only thing I could really find. Especially when I go to areas that are not the Parises of the world, or the New York Cities of the world, or the Las Vegas of the world. Like, this solution could help with those also. But when you go to the smaller destinations, York counties, for example, the Boise's, they are different because they're not as talked about as the mega cities. And you really don't know what's the best place to go until you actually ask someone, hey, what would you recommend? And being able to get an answer that's authentic there is critical. And it's not just got to be for food. It's got to be, hey, you should check out these 5 museums if you're interested in this topic. Because again, it's personalized to what you're actually looking for. It's not a general catch-all of like, these are the top 30 museums in the city. Like, okay, come on. I still got to look through that, figure that out. That seems a little ridiculous to me. So it's more like, okay, I'm actually interested in these topics. Let's say I'm interested in movies and I'm going to an area that has a rich history in movies. Like, they can actually kind of get me to places that I maybe wouldn't have found without actually asking that question outright.
Yeah, that's great. And so just to finish off this conversation, I know we could talk for hours and we'll definitely have follow-up episodes on this when Playeasy Intelligence launches in the new year. And so what our next step, if anyone wants to learn more, have a conversation, wants a demo, what would you suggest those next steps being?
Absolutely. So as I tell everybody, I just want to talk to you. I think this is the biggest thing that sometimes is lacking, where, somebody will make a lot of assumptions about this is what it has to be, this is where we have to go, this is what we have to do. I play it a little differently. I like to talk to people, listen first, understand kind of where they're coming from, where they're going. So if you ever want to kind of dive deeper into this topic, reach out to us, reach out to me personally if you want to. I would love to sit down, have a conversation with you. I would also love to kind of show you what we're doing, kind of get guidance from industry experts to say, hey, this is where we should be pulling it. These are things that would be really useful. So really, I just want to have conversations so that we can make this better for everyone.
Yeah. And if people are interested in learning, I know we've recently announced that we are hosting our first summit, the Playeasy Innovators Summit, next July in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. And so you can see just from this conversation how much we will have to talk about. And I'm sure the conversation will have evolved tremendously just over the course of the next 7-8 months. And so if you're interested in that as well, the best place to reach us is support@playeasy.com. As Jon said, we love to have conversations. I think sometimes when we go to conferences or we're on trips and having conversations, we are there to learn and figure out what solutions need to be built, what problems are our customers having, and we bring all of that back to our team. And we have weekly, bi-weekly calls on just feedback, where the industry is, and as I'm sure you've taken away from this conversation, Jon is unbelievable at taking in that feedback and helping us figure out ways to build solutions and just be, as innovative as we have been up until this point, and that will only continue in the future. And so, Jon, thank you so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. I've learned more. I see you every day, and I've learned more, and so I'm excited to do this more in the future. I think it's really beneficial for anyone who just wants to learn more about Playeasy and where we are in the industry and how we think of things. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And so until next time, thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you.